Bitcoin. This is the most divisive investment topic today, perhaps of all time. There are two camps filled with very intelligent people arguing completely opposite perspectives on it. In this video, I'm going to share with you the two leading voices in favor of Bitcoin and having a very rosy picture of Bitcoin, and then two of the more pessimistic perspectives and very famous, well-known perspectives. This is really a very controversial topic, and I'm really excited to share this with you. And I'm going to pit both sides head to head and let you decide. Now, what I'm also super curious about is what your perspective is, because everyone has an opinion. You can fall into one of three camps. You could either be a believer, a non-believer, or an agnostic. If you're a believer, you believe Bitcoin is going to stabilize, and there's a lot of different perspectives as to how high it could go. But let's just say the believer is someone who believes that this has a valid use case, and it's going to stabilize, and it's going to be worth something intrinsically. And then the other side says there's no intrinsic value, it's worth nothing, and it's eventually going to go to its intrinsic value of zero. That's the haters side. And then there's the middle side, which is, I don't know. Maybe it could go up, maybe it could go down. I just don't know enough, or I don't have an opinion on it either way. Maybe I know a lot, but I just don't have a strong opinion because it could go either way. In the comment section, mention exactly what you are. Are you a believer, non-believer, an agnostic? I'd love to hear your opinion. Promise with you, I'll share my opinion at the end of this video. I don't want to bias anybody, but let's get right into it. And start with the Bitcoin boosters, the pro-Bitcoin people. Now, there's two people here we're going to talk about, which is Peter Van Valkenburgh. Peter Van Valkenburgh is the director of research of Coin Center, a blockchain technology advocacy group. He's very famous. There's a video that says the best presentation or best explanation on earth on Bitcoin. So if you search his name, you'll find that video where he's talking to Congress and explaining exactly, giving the 101 course on what Bitcoin is. And I'm going to share his perspective in this video. Then there's the Winklevoss twins, or the Winklevi. You know, they're early Bitcoin adopters. They fought with Mark Zuckerberg, saying that we invented Facebook and you stole our idea, and Zuckerberg basically settled and gave them $65 million, and they took that $65 million and then they bought Bitcoin and they become billionaires anyway. Great story, very interesting story, and they believe Bitcoin is gold 2.0. And then we got Warren Buffett, one of the world's, well, who are we kidding here? He is the world's most successful investor, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, and he is living off of a diet of McDonald's and Coca-Cola somehow, but you know, this guy knows his stuff and he's highly respected and he has nothing but disrespect for Bitcoin. And then we have Peter Schiff. He's even more on the anti-Bitcoin side. He is a total gold bug and he's the CEO of Euro-Pacific Capital, and he's one of Bitcoin's most biggest opponents. So I'm really looking forward and excited to share with you the perspectives of all four of these gentlemen. So without further delay, let's start with the believers side. And starting with none other than Peter Van Valkenburgh. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading here because I want to get this right, and it's very concise. Bitcoin, according to him, is the world's first public money network. It is the monetary version of the public internet. So it's like the public internet in money. And it's an open payment system, okay, that anybody can use anywhere on earth with no gatekeepers. He said it's a lot like the way email removed gatekeeping from information, because the post office, they were the gatekeepers of communication, and internet with email did away with that. So likewise, he says Bitcoin is removing the gatekeeper from value transfer. No more banks. You don't need a bank, you don't need permission, and you don't need identity checks. It is a way to connect on the internet and transfer money, transfer value. Sounds pretty cool, right? Now, Peter adds that cash works face-to-face. Bitcoin works globally and instantly without centralized control. So he's defined Bitcoin as eloquently as possible, as concisely as possible. But if you also want more of the investor perspective, you can look no further than the Winklevi. So the Winklevoss twins have an interesting perspective. They're saying it's not just public money, but it's gold 2.0. So it's a little bit of a different perspective. And they're saying it's like gold, but it's more scarce, It's more portable, it's more divisible, because like a Satoshi is a 1/1,000,000th of a Bitcoin, I believe, and it's more global. Now, the Winklevoss twins argue that if Bitcoin simply reaches parity with gold's market cap, the value should already be $1 million. And this was before gold skyrocketed to $4,000 an ounce. So if what they predict happens, that gold and Bitcoin become sort of equal competitors of one another, and Bitcoin takes some of gold's market cap and they kind of equal out, $1 million is a very realistic perspective of where Bitcoin could go based on how small the market cap is of Bitcoin compared to the market cap of gold. They also talk about preferences of the younger generation, which is that younger people are more likely to choose a digital currency than physical metals. So they say Bitcoin today is like the internet of 2002. And so therefore, the upside is massive. As a bonus, just for fun, I'm going to throw in Donald Trump's quote, which he says, "I want all the remaining Bitcoin to be made in the USA." Okay, so I'm done with my Donald Trump impersonation. I apologize. But let's move on. So here's what the believers of Bitcoin say. They say Bitcoin becomes a dominant global store of value, like gold, and it also becomes the public internet of money. And the upside potential is $1 million or even more per Bitcoin. So that's the optimistic perspective. Let's go on the other side of the coin, so to speak, pun not intended. The pessimistic view, the doom and gloom view of Bitcoin. That perspective is that Bitcoin is an illusion. It's not money, it's not an asset, and it's not a store of value. It just doesn't have any real valid use case. And to them, Bitcoin is nothing more than a speculative token that is only as valuable as what the next buyer is willing to pay for it. Let me tell you what Warren Buffett specifically says. Warren Buffett's argument is simple. Bitcoin produces nothing. Farmland, on the other hand, he always loves to bring up farmland, produces food. Apartments produce rent, and businesses produce profits, obviously. But Bitcoin produces nada, nothing, according to him. He also famously said that if you were to sell me all the Bitcoin for $25, I wouldn't take it. And his logic is that I wouldn't know what to do with this Bitcoin, and I would only want to sell it. So I don't believe in investing in things that the only purpose of it is to sell it. Interestingly enough, he kind of says the same thing about gold and silver. And Buffett also adds that in the US, the only real money is the US dollar. And therefore, the US government is never going to allow private digital tokens like Bitcoin to replace the US dollar and the US currency. Then we got Peter Schiff. Now, if you think Warren Buffett didn't like Bitcoin, wait till you hear Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff goes a bit further, and he says Bitcoin can't possibly be money because the only thing that's money is something that starts out as a commodity. It has to originate as a commodity like gold and has to have intrinsic value. And then you derive that into a currency that you can trade, and it's based on a physical commodity like gold. So he is a major gold bug. You understand the logic behind his argument, and gold does have industrial uses. It's indestructible, and it has been considered money for thousands of years. So to Schiff, Bitcoin, on the other hand, is just a con game, and he calls it a Ponzi-style asset propped up by hype and speculation. And he adds that if governments really took a free market approach to it, there would be gold-backed digital securities and currencies that would compete with Bitcoin and completely obliterate Bitcoin. And just for fun, let's tack on Bill Gates' perspective. Bill Gates famously said, Bitcoin is just the greater fool investment, that it's only worth something if you can find a bigger fool willing to invest and buy it from you. That's the pessimistic perspective, and it's equally as simple as the optimistic perspective. They say that Bitcoin has no underlying use case, and it's sustained by hope and beliefs only. And they also say that when the next buyer disappears, the price follows. Prediction, $0 Bitcoin. So you've heard both worldviews. You've heard the pro-Bitcoin camp and the anti-Bitcoin camp. Where do you sit on this spectrum? And it's a wide spectrum. Believers say Bitcoin becomes global money and it could potentially hit $1 million per Bitcoin. Non-believers say Bitcoin collapses under its own speculative weight and it collapses to its intrinsic value of 0. What do you think? Are you a believer? Are you an agnostic? Are you a non-believer? $1 million or 0? Where do you sit on this fence? Drop your take in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinion, not just me, but of course other people commenting. And I'm sure there's going to be a lively debate, I hope, because this is an interesting topic. Let's be real. And as I promised, I'm going to give my take real quick. And please don't let this bias you on your opinion. I expect you to comment before you even listen to this, which is I became a believer in Bitcoin in 2018. I think Bitcoin could realistically hit $1 million. I do not see it as an actual peer-to-peer currency. I see it more as a store of wealth. I see it as digital gold, just like the Winklevoss. Why do I see it that way? Well, that's a topic for another time. So in addition to commenting, please like, share, and subscribe. Especially subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers so we can monetize this channel and continue to grow it to provide you with more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.